Welcome to America F1, and today Scott and I are talking about the Paddock Club. There's been so many questions on how to get in the Paddock Club. How much does it cost? Like, do I have to basically sell a kidney to get in there? Is it exclusive? Can only stars get in? Like, what's it all about? So Scott and I are going to talk about the Paddock Club here at American F1.
Yeah, America F1. America F1. It's a golden run. America F1.
Scott, you are the preeminent man in the Paddock Club. I've only been three times. You've probably been three times in 1 year. So
Uh,
when people talk
well,
about the Paddock Club, is it only for celebrities? Like, do you need an invitation?
okay.
Do I need a connection to get in there?
No,
How do I do it?
it depends on which club you go to. My wife and I have been to the Paddock Club 10 times in the last two seasons, six times last season, four times the season before, and we're going five times this coming season. We've been
Insane.
to five different F1 teams, Paddock Clubs, as well as, of course, F1 experiences, the Legends package. We've been to Ferrari, Mercedes, Aston Martin, Red Bull, and Williams. The answer is you don't need to be a celebrity. You don't generally, for most of them, need to know anybody. You don't need to be a sponsor. You basically need to be able to pay, and you need to know where and you need to know where to buy the tickets.
Yes.
But there are exceptions to this. So it really depends. I mean, sort of the number one place that most people start out buying Paddock Club tickets is the big seller F1 experiences, which is owned by Liberty Media. It's owned by a company called Quint, which is
Hmm.
owned by Liberty Media. And F1 Experiences will sell you tickets to the F1 Experiences Lounge. And that's how most people sort of start off going to the Paddock Club. But they will also sell you tickets to Haas, to Stake, to sometimes Alpine, and occasionally, if you ask, they may sell you occasionally an Aston Martin ticket if you ask, occasionally a McLaren ticket if you ask. Every once in a blue moon, although they don't talk about it, a Mercedes ticket, so, occasionally a Ferrari ticket, but usually some of the lower tiered teams. But you can buy most teams' tickets by going directly to their website. Red Bull Racing sells tickets to the public for their Paddock Club directly on their website. Scuderia Ferrari sells tickets to the public directly on their website. It's called the Ferrari F1 Club. Google Ferrari F1 Club, and you can buy tickets to their Paddock Club that way and see Lewis and see Charles 2 feet from your face giving speeches in the Paddock Club. See Fred Vasseur, the whole gang. Same thing with Williams. You can buy a ticket to Williams Racing that way. Alpine, same thing. The teams that you can't generally are Mercedes, and recently, the last 2 years, McLaren, because McLaren has too many damn sponsors that they've like run out of tickets to the public because Zach Brown is.
Their shirt is it's like a bicycle shirt. It's like full of sponsors. Like they got them all over down the sleeve. They got them on both sides. It's like there's no space on that car for another sponsor.
You used to be able, as a member of the public, and even through F1 experiences, to buy tickets to the McLaren Paddock Club through their own website and through F1 experiences. No more. Now, if you're really not a team or a sponsor invitee, a guest, you're not getting there probably. With
Now,
Mercedes, the same thing. Generally, that you have to know somebody generally, or your car dealer can get you in. If you're a Mercedes owner, you can generally get in that way. I found out.
what is the general cost for the Paddock
Okay.
Club? Like, so I've gone and there's different tiers. There's like the Champions Club. There's the
Which
Paddock
is not the
Club.
Paddock Club.
There's a Legends package. There's all these different packages, and they all have these different tiers
Yes.
of cost.
Yes. I'll explain. There's a couple of different ways you got to look at it. Number one, the price differentiator depends on the track. The cheapest tracks in F1 are probably Baku, Japan, Hungary, Spa, Spain, the sort of older and less fancy paddock clubs. And they are like Baku, a general paddock club ticket, non-team is about $5,000. That's about the cheapest. At the other end are the US.
Yeah, Vegas.
Miami's number 2, Vegas is number 1. For a basic, no frills Las Vegas Paddock Club pass, before they started marking them down, they wanted about $20,000, and no one was buying them, by the way. And so the real price that they were asking in the weeks before the race was about 15, but people were really paying more like 9 or 10 under the table. But my sort of the one that they actually got the asking more in Miami, which wasn't, but it was about, or for a regular ticket, about 14 or so. That's the second most expensive. Beyond that, the next tier is like Mexico, Circuit of the Americas, Singapore, and Abu Dhabi, where a regular Paddock Club ticket will run 10 to 12,000. But beyond the regular Paddock Club ticket are sort of team Paddock Club tickets. So the cheapest team is Haas, because they don't offer you as many amenities. The most expensive is probably Scuderia Ferrari. Now there's a bit of a Lewis Hamilton tax, and they increased their price by about 2,000 euros from last year. And those probably run you 3,000 to 4,000 euros more than a regular Paddock Club ticket now. And in the middle, Red Bull is not quite as expensive as Ferrari. Mercedes is on the less expensive end now that Lewis isn't there. The price, if you can get in, is pretty reasonable, actually. Like Japan is $7,000. Spain is about 8,500. Ferrari is about $3,000 to $4,000 more per race than Mercedes right now, for example. But on the
I know that the
I'll
Champions Club, I got into the Champions Club and in Silverstone last year, and it
yes,
was about 3,500 each.
that's
So I
about
paid about, yeah, Champions Club was 3,500. And the difference, the thing is that each track, the Paddock Club and the Champions Club and the Legends Club, they're all different because of the layout of the track and how old the track is.
Let me explain the differences. Champions Club is not Paddock Club. At Champions Club, you will not be sitting in the pit building. You will not be sitting above the garages at most tracks. You'll be sitting in another building somewhere else. It may be on the main straight, or it may be in a turn nearby. You don't get quite the same access as Paddock Club, not quite the same level of food, but you will get visits from F1 personalities, and you'll pay about half the money of Paddock Club. So it's a great option for a lot of people. It's probably the best value hospitality ticket that sort of F1 Experiences offers. Paddock Club, you sort of general Paddock Club ticket, and I'll go over the sort of the Legends package, which we'll talk about, and the F1 Garage package. We'll go over those a little later. Those are a lot more money. But sort of your regular Paddock Club package, okay, basically includes the Paddock Club, these Paddock Club lounges, which are composed of team lounges or like the F1 Experiences lounges. And basically, except for Monaco, you're pretty much in the pit building, right above the pits. So you see these things on Drive to Survive, where you see this view looking down at the pit stop. That's the view you see when you're there. You're right over the pit stops, right over the garages, and you get unlimited food and drink. You get all the alcohol you want if that's your thing. You get incredible food that in about 20 to 24 races is catered by Austrian catering company Dough and Co., which was the brainchild of Niki Lauda. He hated the food at Paddock Club, so he brought in his favorite catering company, Dough and Co. The food is unbelievable. You get lobster,
the food is good.
you get filet mignon, you get shrimp, you get the food is shockingly good. I'm not a big eater, so I don't take full advantage of it. But if you're a big eater, you're in seventh heaven. You get handmade desserts. The level of food is greater, in my opinion, than any other sports shared hospitality lounge in the world. And I've been to sports all over the world, a lot of different sports. It's unbelievable. In addition to the food and drink, which is unlimited, you get pit walks every day, at least 2 of them, at least, that are generally 45 minutes each. So you get to go downstairs into the pit lane, and you get to walk the pit lane for about 45 minutes, at least twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. So you get to go right in front of the garages on pit lane. If you are a team Paddock Club attendee, if you're a guest of a team, that team will let you under the rope that's in front of their garage to go right up to the foot of their garage, which is really cool. And if you're a repeat attendee, like I've been, even if you're not a guest of that team that day, if the team personnel know you and know you've been a repeated guest of their team, just not that day, they'll probably let you under the rope anyway because they know you're likely to come back.
Right.
So in addition to that,
They have the DJ in the lounge.
oh
And
yeah,
then some
Tractor.
pretty much most of the times I've been, the music's really good. Like
Yeah,
it's
they
good
have
music.
sax, they got the
Yeah.
saxophone playing, they have DJs, they also have a ton of F1 simulators if you like to drive simulators within the Paddock Club. Um, they've got all sorts of stuff. They have a merch stand that never runs out of merch. They also do what's called a track tour. Now, a lot of times, F1 fans will see which are basically those flatbed trucks, and you see the people going on the trucks around the track, and F1 fans always boo, which I love. You're on the truck waving to them, and they're going, boo!
Yeah, they're boo. You're like, hey,
No matter
I
what
paid
track
for
around the
this.
world you're going, you're going to get booed pretty much. Which
We
is
didn't get
fine.
billed at Silverstone just because when we did the track time, it was like before practice or something like that. Like hardly anybody was in the stands.
Yeah, you usually get booed. I want to be clear though. The track tour that you see right with the drivers parade, those are not regular Paddock Club guests. That one track tour are called F1 Global Partners. Those are people like last year Rolex, the actual sponsors of F1 itself. Those are the only people who are allowed on that particular track tour. The track tours that occur during the other times during the race weekend are the Paddock Club guests. It's first come, first serve, and you have to go like register right away or you're not going to get it. So that's
Yeah,
another
and
perk. There are more perks though. If you love F2, F3, and Porsche and Ferrari racing like I do, because I love to drive GT3 race cars myself, they will take you in a much smaller tour because most people don't sign up. They'll take you in a group of like 5 or 10 down to the support paddocks, and you'll get to go visit the F2, the F3 teams. You'll get to talk to drivers, mechanics, team principals, and you'll get to go inside the garage and sit in the Porsches and go right up to the cars. And if you like that kind of thing, it's a lot of fun. They'll take you on photo safaris during the support races. So you get to go in this little van right up to the edge of the track, right up to the fence, and get to take pictures for like 15 or 20 minutes while the cars rip by you at speed and you're 2 feet away. So there's all
and I must say that at some tracks they don't have it together.
right.
Like because I
Yeah.
remember when we did Silverstone this past summer,
Yep.
me and my son went, and it was raining,
Mhm.
and we were supposed to do, we go on the shortbread truck and we go around the track.
Yep.
That was delayed, and we stood out there for like 45 minutes, and then the bus came late, and then when
Mhm.
the bus finally came, they got the people on, and it was a bit of a shit show. It was a bit of shit show, and it was muddy. Like to get to the shortbread truck, since the
Mhm.
rain had come in, all that sandy was all mud. So you have to trudge through the mud to get there,
Mhm.
and yeah, I wasn't happy. I wasn't
Silverstone
happy.
rains a lot. I mean, it's the funny part is Silverstone is probably among the most organized F1 races of the entire calendar. They have more race makers, more staff, more knowledgeable staff than at just about any other F1 race, but they host 480,000 people. It is the most highly attended race in the world for F1, and it's just a lot of people. So in addition to that, you also in the Paddock Club will get driver, team principal, and F1 figure interviews. And so basically, drivers and team principals and F1 figures will come into the Paddock Club and will be interviewed by a host. So if you're a Ferrari guest, you will see last year Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, and Fred Vasseur, and sometimes the reserve driver, and they'll come into the Ferrari F1 club and they'll give interviews. You are generally not allowed to ask questions. Every once in a while, that's not the case. When I was an Aston Martin guest, I've been an Aston Martin Paddock Club guest 3 times. Occasionally, Fernando will take questions from the audience. So I got to ask
No, Fernando took questions like the
for me.
time we were in Japan, and we went, and I actually got his autograph on our paddock pass. He was talking, he was giving autographs out,
Wow.
and usually they don't,
No,
but
they don't
they
stick
did
around.
at that time. And I remember, so this is what we got. Like when you get the F1 experience, they come with this
The red pouch with the
little
ticket.
red pouch, which is kind of cool.
Teams
And
don't
then
give you that, by the way.
you have your paddock pass, and there's Fernando's signature on Saturday on his paddock. You get your little lanyard, and you have one for each day. And it's pretty cool. Kill little keepsakes. And I kept them, and you got your wristband. And I
Mhm.
kept asking him, well, if I have this, what do I need a wristband for? Because if you have this,
Will do, yeah.
why do you need a wristband? And they had no clue, like they couldn't answer. They're like, huh? I was like, yeah, well, if I have the pass,
You gotta have the
why do I
wristband
need a
too.
wristband? And they're like, well, you need it. I'm like, well, why? And they're like, yeah, because what if you forget your wristband, or what if it falls off, or what if someone cuts it off,
I
or
think
or
it
what if?
I think it proves that you've gone through the turnstile gate within the Paddock Club. Basically, when you get into the Paddock Club, you go through a swipe gate where you show your Paddock Club pass and it takes a picture of you. At that point, you are linked to that Paddock Club pass, so you can't transfer it. And then they give you a wristband. So I think that's proof that you've swiped that Paddock Club pass. I think that's why they give you it.
But the one thing I notice is the
Mhm.
security is pretty technologically advanced.
Yes.
You got the little sensors and the eye, and I was like, "Whoa, okay."
Yeah, and the security is very professional, and the main F1 security goes to all the races. A lot of them are German and
Yeah.
Austrian, and they go to all the races. I know a lot of those guys because I see them at every time that we go. By the way, other perks, if you buy generally, depending on the race, 4 or 6 tickets, which is a lot, you get Paddock Club parking too. At most races, it's 4 tickets. Sometimes it's a little more. That basically enables you to park right near where the drivers and the F1 media park, right by the Paddock Club. So you don't have to take public transportation or park in a remote lot. You basically are parking right near the Paddock Club, and it makes life a lot easier. Um,
Right.
but generally, you can sometimes get it for 2 passes, which you're not supposed to, if people running the Paddock Club know you and like you, and you're a repeat customer. That's just the way
Now,
it
most of the paddocks are covered. Now, I know
is.
on the championship club at Silverstone, it wasn't covered, and it was raining. And I was so incensed because I was like, wait, we paid all this money and it's not even covered? Like, it's raining. So when you wanted to watch the race and you go out on the
Mhm.
balcony, it wasn't covered. So it was raining. But when I went in Japan, it's covered, there's
Yeah.
seats, you're right over the garage, it's super professional.
Yeah.
And that's why when you get these tickets, you have to actually go to the site and see where it's located, because if it's not
Mhm.
right over the garage and you're down the street somewhere, it might not be covered.
That's true. It depends. I mean, the Paddock Club itself, I've never seen that situation, but Champions Club is about half the money. So there are probably some differences. I've never been to the Champions Club. I've been to track hospitality at Silverstone, which was pretty good. I liked it a lot. It was called the Fusion Lounge. And my wife and I were pretty much the only Americans in the Fusion Lounge because all the Americans buy through F1 experiences. It's hilarious. And
Hmm.
the Brits all buy track hospitality. So it was us and about 1,000 Brits, which was a lot of fun. By the way, there are some other differentiators between team Paddock Club tickets and regular Paddock Club tickets. So,
Okay.
team Paddock Club tickets also get you a garage tour of that team's garage during non-racing activities. So, you'll get to go once or even twice, depending on your host team, down to the garage. They'll take you all over the garage, depending on how nice the team is. Some teams will show you very little. Some teams will show you a lot of their garage. Will show you all the rooms. I've gotten that treatment from Aston Martin, for example. They showed me pretty much all the rooms. Mercedes pretty much showed me all of the rooms in the garage. I even saw the little risque Valerie Bottas calendar because
Yeah.
they
Which
love
Toto says
Valtteri.
it won't be doing that this year.
No, the sad part is they actually love Valtteri. so thrilled. When we were in Vegas, they were so thrilled that he was coming back, and they said it's the worst open secret that he's coming back. In
What?
addition to that, I'm sorry.
Wait. The question I have for you is, when you go and you have your paddock pass for the day, and you get to
Hmm?
go in the paddock, like sometimes talk
Oh,
about
the
that
F1 paddock?
in,
Oh,
yeah, because sometimes you get a ticket for the whole day, and sometimes you only get it for like 20, 30 minutes, and
right.
you go through and then you're out. Like, what was that experience for you? I know for us, we got like my son got like all these YouTubers autograph. He got Will Buxton. He got a lot of the commentators
Mhm.
autograph because they were just walking around,
Yeah.
and some of the drivers were just walking around. Most
Okay.
of the time, you can't get their autographs. Sometimes you can, but I just take pictures with them, and I try not to bother them for the autographs because some of them seem like
Okay.
they're in the zone.
Let me draw a little bit of a differentiation, though. Generally, a general Paddock Club pass from F1 experiences does not include sort of on your own paddock access. They don't let you roam around the paddock if you just get a general Paddock Club pass, unless you get something called the Legends package, which gives you a 1 day paddock pass on the day of your choice. But it's a lot more money. It's probably 3,000 to 4,000 more than a general Paddock Club pass. However, at some tracks that have large paddocks, like Spa, for example, if you are a guest of the F1 Experiences Lounge, they will give you a paddock tour, which is guided. A guide will accompany you for like a half an hour. They call him an expert host, who generally is a young driver with some racing experience. They will take you around the paddock for about a half an hour, but they don't leave you on your own.
Hmm.
The way, if you want an unlimited paddock pass to go wherever you want in the paddock, other than the team houses, you cannot go into those. You need to buy the Legends package or the F1 Garage package, or you be a guest of a team and the team likes you and they just hand you a paddock pass or you ask for one. They generally won't do that if they don't know you.
Now, did you say that? Can you go into the team lounges at all? What pass gets
Oh,
you into the team lounge?
nothing.
No,
You
nothing.
no. The only way you're going into a team hospitality house or team lounge is if the team invites you in. I have been in the Mercedes one once in Vegas
Mhm.
because George Russell was giving a speech, and so they brought all the Paddock Club guests, the Silver Arrows Lounge guests, and Mercedes Arrows Lounge is like 1/4 the size of the Ferrari Lounge or the Red Bull Lounge, so it's much a smaller group of people. They did bring us in the team hospitality house, but they didn't let us roam around.
Well,
They
that was
want,
nice of them, though.
yeah, it
That
was.
was nice.
So,
Yeah.
but we were just there to hear the speech. So generally, like even if you have a paddock pass because you bought a Legends package or an F1 Garage package, which I'll talk about in a minute, you cannot enter the team hospitality houses. If you start doing that, they're going to kick you out. You are
Okay.
not allowed in those places. That's a one no.
And you
Um,
can't, unless you have a Legends package, you can't walk away from your guide either. They're
no.
always like, "Hey, stay with us. You got to stay here."
Or again, if you're a team guest, I will tell you right now, if you are a frequent team guest and the team likes you, they have some extra paddock passes and they may give it to you for a half an hour or 2 or 3 hours.
Mhm.
Probably won't give it to you for the whole day because they don't have enough. But yes, if you're a frequent guest of a team, not all teams, Aston Martin, no way. If you're not a sponsor, you're not getting any special access at Aston Martin. But other teams are a little more generous and are a little less pass system like with their passes. Will definitely give you a paddock pass if you've been there enough and you show loyalty. Yes.
Now, the one thing I was thinking of, and I was going through when I went through, and what, like, when you have, what's the difference between when you, all right, so they have the paddock, right? They have the Ferrari lounge, they have all these different lounges, and then they have the experience lounge.
F1
And when
experience.
you're in, yeah,
Yes.
when you're in an experience lounge, you
Right.
can sometimes go to a different lounge to hear certain, because they'll have
Yes.
one general
Love that.
lounge that all these different people speak at. And
Yes.
so you have people speaking at your lounge, but you also have people speaking at this general lounge,
Yeah.
and they'll give you like a list of
Yep.
all the people that are speaking.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Okay. There's a bit of a differentiation. The teams At the bigger paddock clubs, not at all, but at the bigger ones, the teams have their own lounges and only team guests can get in them. So if you're at Circuit of the Americas or Silverstone or Abu Dhabi, the big paddock clubs, or Vegas or Miami, the only people that are getting into here, Charles and Lewis, for example, speak this year in the Ferrari Formula One Club, are Ferrari Formula One Club guests. But um, if you are in one of the smaller paddock clubs, like let's say Hungary, the only team in Hungary's paddock club that had its own lounge last year was Ferrari. So if you're Mercedes or Alpine or Red Bull, and Max and Checo were coming up to talk, anybody could go hear them talk, because they were in what was called the club lounge, which is basically a shared open space that just had an area like, this is the Red Bull area, this is the Mercedes area, this is the Alpine area. So yes, you could get access that way. And in general, F1 Experiences has two levels of guests. One is called the club lounge, which is cheaper, and that's a more open area in the paddock club. And the second is the F1 Experiences lounge, which is more expensive. And typically the way it works, and by the way, that's where they host not only F1 Experiences lounge guests, but Legends package guests. And the way that works is F1 Experiences will have drivers and team principals and F1 celebrities, former drivers, come and speak in either the club lounge or the F1 Experiences lounge. And that will be posted throughout the paddock club. And anyone is welcome to come to those speeches. They're really interviews. You have a professional host, and he or she interviews that guest for about 7 minutes, 10 minutes, and there's really no opportunity for questions from the audience generally. But the way it works is they come in, they're usually hustled in with security, they talk,
Yes.
and they leave. They don't hang out.
No.
But some team principals in team paddock club lounges, unlike the drivers, will hang out a little bit. Fred will hang out a little bit in Ferrari. Zach Brown will hang out sometimes for a long time in McLaren. It just depends on the team principal's personality and how salesy and huggy feely and the kind of person that they are. Do they like?
Well, to
Yes.
me, I mean, out of the team principals that I've met, Zach
Mhm.
Brown's the best.
He is
I actually got to meet him up in Sonoma also,
oh,
and he hung around in
mhm.
Sonoma and just hung around, talked to everybody. He was in like a racing suit,
Yep.
and he was just hanging out
Well,
and
he's a
talking
racer.
to the fans and talking to all the McLaren people, because they had a McLaren, like all the old cars from
Mhm.
McLaren were there. It's pretty cool. I mean, my son went, and me and Zach took a picture, and we're talking about McLaren and talking about racing. He's talking about racing to my son. And I was like, now, what other, I mean, of course, he's American, so that's probably why, but what other team principal would take the time to just sit and chat with, you know,
Of all the
the,
team
the,
principals,
the,
he's the
the
biggest one.
racing fans?
Yeah,
He's the
look,
what?
of all the team principals, Zach is the biggest car fan and racing fan. Zach's recreation when he's not either going to IndyCar, where he controls their IndyCar team, or F1, he's doing his own racing in his own race cars that he owns. That's what he does. And he's among the biggest car collectors, memorabilia collectors in the United States. I mean, the dude is a racer. He loves cars racing. That is his life. It's a passion. It's not just a business with Zach. And the thing about Zach is too, he's not the most technical guy. That's what Andrea Stella's there to make the teams faster. He is I think, among the most skilled team principals in the paddock with the sponsors and the guests. This guy literally,
Yes.
I've seen him work the Paddock Club, and I wasn't even his guest, but I could see it. He's literally taking selfies with every one of his guests. He's taking them to the pit wall and I have videos of this, explaining to them how the pit wall works. I mean, this is why they have more sponsors than anyone else.
Yeah.
He's like
He's
a
awesome.
social animal. He's like the mayor. Now, Fred Vasseur is very good that way too, by the way. In his European French way, he's super friendly too. He's really like that. He's like Zach that way. I mean, he's European, not American, but the same kind of, like, he'll stay, he'll take pictures, he'll talk to you. He's not quite as warm as Zach, but he's pretty close to it. Uh,
Now, I've seen in the paddock, and I've gone to the speeches of, let's see, Fernando, Yuki,
hmm?
Max, I think Ocon
Hmm?
and I think and they had what what's the British guy who won the championship kind
Jensen,
of
Jensen,
years ago, kind of a drinker. He won
not
one
Jensen Button?
championship. No, not Jensen. I've talked to Jensen, but
Uh,
he's doing commentary.
Damon Hill,
Damon Hill. No,
the
not the other
90s
one.
champion.
I think
It'll
he's
come.
drinks a kind of a
Nigel Mansell.
drinker. Nigel Manson. So
Nigel
and
Mansell.
and I think he had to have had a couple.
He's amazing. He's an awesome dude.
I think he had to have a couple. But the majority of those guys, other than Max, who was in and ushered out, most of the other ones just kind of they hung around for a second or two. They signed some autographs, they signed some helmets, and then they went off. Max was in and out. He couldn't wait to get out.
The
But
demands
what
of his time are,
hmm?
look, the
But what
demands of
about
Max Verstappen
some
are enormous.
on some of the people that you've seen? Who's been your favorite?
Okay, look, none of the drivers that I've ever seen hang out in the Paddock Club after their speeches. They don't, because they're in the middle of a race weekend and they have to go to their engineering trailers. They don't. Where you see drivers' real personalities is in hotels, in the entrance to the paddock, in the exit to the paddock. I mean, I've seen all of the drivers countless times over the course of many years and what they're really like and who's really nice, who's a little less nice. I mean, in terms of as people, I'm not talking about now their driving skills. The nicest people in the paddock and among the drivers, the most generous of their time, Charles Leclerc, Pierre Gasly, and Esteban Ocon. As people, they are the nicest. If you want to get into a repartee in terms of the greatest wit, George Russell.
Hmm.
Like I was wearing a Ferrari shirt. He told me I was wearing the wrong shirt. I told him you should go ask Lewis if it's the wrong shirt. And he's a witty guy, and he enjoys that. When people were taking selfies with Christian Horner, he's like running up to the fans. He's like running up. Can I get a
Photobombing.
photo too? Can I photo?
Yeah.
Photo. He's the wittiest driver, I think. But like Charles, Ocon, Gasly will give you the shirt off their back. They will always stop, even if they're having a bad day. They will stop. They're just good people. Some of them are more businesslike. It just depends. Like Magnussen was not rude, but he's pretty businesslike. He's very focused. He can be nice, but sometimes he's just Max. It depended on his mood. He could be really nice, but if something was bothering him, forget it. Don't get near him.
You know who I've never seen? I've never seen the Hulk. I've never
Oh,
seen
Hogan's
Hulkenberg. I've
awesome.
never seen him.
I see him all the time. He's one of the nicest drivers in the paddock too. Actually, he's also super nice, very generous with his time. He's a good guy. By the way, I should talk about a couple of other things. Team Paddock Club.
Wait, who's the tallest? Who's the tallest?
Um,
Ocon or Hulkenberg?
Ocon and now Ollie Behrman and Albon. Ocon, Albon, and now Ollie Behrman. Those are the tallest drivers. Hulkenberg is a
Ocon's
little
what?
short.
6'2", maybe 6'1"?
No, he's probably 6'2" to 6'3".
Wow.
He's very tall. He's very thin. Now, him and Albon are about the same height, and Behrman is shot up. He's about that height now. You see them together. He's just about that height.
And other than Yuki, who's the shortest? Because we all know Yuki's the shortest.
Alonso. Well, now it'll be Isaac Hadjar. Hadjar is very short. Alonso is short. Liam Lawson is pretty short. Yeah, none of them are tall. Those guys
What were your experience? Have you met? Did you get to meet Isaac Hajar when he was in F2?
I haven't. I've been
Logano?
feed from him, but I've never spoken with him. I've spoken with Kimi Antonelli. I've spoken repeatedly with Ollie Behrman because I had breakfast with Ollie Behrman. My wife and I did in Montreal because we had breakfast in the Ritz-Carlton, and he was sitting right next to me. So he was alone. So we struck up about a 40-minute conversation because he was alone. He's very friendly. So I've spoken with Ollie more extensively than any of the others, because we were having a meal and he was alone. I've spoken with Kimi Antonelli, Jack Doohan, in terms of the new drivers, who unfortunately is probably going to be a driver for 1 or 2 or 3 races. And that's it. I've spoken with Franco Colapinto. I've not really spoken with Isaac Hadjar yet. By the way, another really big perk, if you're a Mercedes guest or a Ferrari guest, you will get to see the team garage during some sort of racing operation, either practice or the race or quali or some combination of them, depending on the track. So you'll actually go to the garage and be there, and you'll see Carlos Sainz, or now Lewis or Charles, getting into their car, getting out of their car, potentially talking with a race engineer if it's practice, and they'll be 2 inches from you. Most teams don't do that unless you're a sponsor. Ferrari will do that. And Mercedes not only will do that, they have a sit-down gallery in the garage where you plug into headphones and you have a host explaining to you what's going on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's
they're another
cool.
level of work. Mercedes
That
is
is cool.
another level of organization that way. I mean, Mercedes, when you're their guest in the Silver Hours Lounge, they are narrating for you in front of giant information screens everything that's going on during every practice, quali, and race. They have 2 hosts. One of them has like 25 years of experience in F1, and he's amazing. Nobody else does that. But other things, most teams though are not going to get you anywhere near the team garage during race operations if you're not a sponsor. By the way, there are some things that you just cannot buy as a guest if you're not like a bigwig, a grid walk. Forget it. Even if you're media, most of the people can't get a grid pass. Like you saw that guy who was interviewing Max who got manhandled by security. You cannot buy a grid pass. Period. Full stop.
You can't.
You cannot. Again, paddock access, you better be springing for Legends package. If you want an unlimited, walk around pass, that's about 3,000 to 4,000 more a race. If you for a Legends package, which gives you 1 day, or the F1 Garage package, which gives you an all weekend paddock pass where you sit in a garage in pit lane, right on pit lane, 2-star Michelin chef meal. Now Gordon Ramsay is going to cook for you every race, or his
Get
restaurant.
out of here.
Yeah.
Wait, what pass is this?
The F1 Garage is now Gordon Ramsay's garage this year because he's a gearhead. As you know, he's a total gearhead. He goes to all the races anyway. So he struck a deal. This year, it's going to be Ramsay's garage for all the races that they're doing F1 Garage.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. But let me be clear. F1 Garage, I've never gone. I wouldn't. It's just too much money. It is between $25,000 and $39,000 per ticket per race. Yeah, it's not worth it.
Doing that. No.
Look, if you have money to burn, God bless. It's not happening. But that is an unlimited paddock pass for that race weekend. The other thing
What about those hot laps? How do you get a hot lap?
Well, my wife and I got one, but we didn't buy. You cannot buy a hot lap. I want to be clear.
Okay.
You cannot buy a hot lap. You must be invited. How did I get one? I did it. No one told me how I got it, but I'll tell you how I think I got it. We literally showed up at the Vegas Grand Prix, and the AMG factory rep came up to us because I'm a long-term AMG owner, very active in the AMG community. I frequently go to their driving academy. And she asked if we would like one from Mick Schumacher an hour or 2 later. I was like, yeah. Why did I get it? I did a promotional video without compensation for the AMG Driving Academy the week of the week of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. They asked me to do it because I was going for the 4th time, and because I drive race cars, they thought it would be cool. I didn't get paid for it. I said, sure, we have an Instagram page. I can do that. So I took like 150 short videos of my 2 days there and gave them to AMG, and no compensation. Just here you go, use them as you want. They used a few of them on their social media. And I think that was my thank you from the factory. And now as a result, I now have an open invitation from AMG to go to any one of their races that we want to go to if they have availability. But other things you can't get into, you cannot buy your way into a driver's meeting, which, by the way, you can't Rolex 24. But yes, you can't go to the driver's meeting. You can't go to a press conference. You can't go to team hospitality access. You're not going to have a private meeting with the driver. Those are things you have to be invited for. And really, the way to get access to that is become a sponsor or become a top employee of a sponsor or a client of a sponsor. If you're a really top client of a sponsor, you'll find yourself getting a lot of access to that. Another thing during the F1 weekend that goes on, the teams hold a lot of events for sponsors during those weekends that you don't know about. They rent out racetracks. They rent out restaurants. They do all these lavish events. But if you're not a sponsor, no Paddock Club pass is going to buy you access to those. If you're a Ferrari owner, however, this is what I love about Ferrari. Ferrari, or if you're a friend of the team, they will invite you to those things. They're very special that way. They will do that.
Out of all the paddocks that you've been to, what in your estimation is the best one to go to? I mean, I literally love Japan because it was clean, everything was really organized, and it was easily accessible.
Okay. My favorite Paddock Club is probably Austin, but maybe it's because my wife and I's experience as EXO take so many pictures and videos. Austin has an unbelievable setup. The pit building is extraordinarily tall in Austin. It's much taller than the others. The paddock itself is very narrow. There are no motorhomes like in Europe that wreck your view and your pictures. So you're towering over this very narrow paddock with these small little tents that are team hospitality houses. You can see everything. You can see where the drivers are working out, where they're warming up, and you're towering over them. So you have this unbelievable visualization from balconies on the Paddock Club that run the entire length of the F1 paddock. That's number one. Number two, on the race side, on the track side, unlike almost any other Paddock Club in the world, the balconies in Austin don't generally have ropes and dividers between the various sort of balcony sections that are outside of the Paddock Clubs. So you can literally walk along the balcony to wherever the action is. So people like us, we've gone so many times. I know where the drivers' parade is. I know where the national anthem is. I know where Parc Ferme is. So we go to those places and we get the best pictures from Austin anywhere in the world. Also, the driver entrances, the swipe gates are a little more open. Security isn't quite as nasty as they are at some of the other ones. So I love Austin. It's a great club. The most luxurious Paddock Club I've been to are probably Miami and Vegas. For that.
As far as the I think it has to do with the Wi-Fi. So Scott went out for a second, but he'll be back in a second.
I can hear you.
And as soon as he attaches, we'll get right back to his story about the Austin Grand Prix. And he was talking about the paddock, and it's the best view. And there he is now. He's talking about the paddock. He was talking about the view, and he's talking about the tents. And he's saying that it's the best view where you can see the team working out. Like you could actually see the drivers working out and everything else.
Okay.
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah. The thing about Austin that's unbelievable is on the paddock side, you've got the pit building is incredibly tall and the paddock is incredibly narrow. And there are no tall buildings like those huge motorhomes like in Europe. All they have are these tiny little tents that are very short. And the paddock is very narrow, and there's one hallway, and you're towering over it from 3 floors up. So you have complete visualization of what's going on in the paddock from balconies on the Paddock Club, the pit building, that extend the entire length of the paddock. So there's no view like in Vegas. That's like in Austin. Number one, on the track side, again, very high elevation view of the main straight, and the balconies, unlike any other Paddock Club I've ever seen in the world, generally have no ropes in between the sections that are outside of the respective Paddock Club lounges. So if you know, like we do, where things are going to happen, where the driver's parade is, where the national anthem is, where Parc Ferme is, we just go the length of the balcony and can take perfect pictures of exactly where things are happening in Austin that we can't do almost anywhere else in the world. So
is that because Austin's the newest track?
It's not even close to the newest track. It's just it's not quite as tightly regulated. Whereas some of them are very tightly regulated and they're a pain in the rear end if you're trying to take pictures. That's number one. Like Vegas is not good for pictures because it's dark and the paddock is as wide as a football field and it's dark. So if you're trying to take pictures of what's going on in the paddock, forget it. Unless you have a paddock pass, you're getting no pictures of what's going on in the paddock for the most part. It's very, very dark unless they're right under you. So I really like Austin among the US races. Europe depends on what you want to go for. Like, Monza, if the feeling of the Tifosi celebrating a Ferrari podium is the greatest thing in F1. The pit building itself is old and decrepit and lousy, but the passion you get of the Tifosi when Ferrari makes the podium makes more than makes up for it. It is like nothing else in F1. So it depends. It's Red Bull Ring is beautiful because Dietrich Mateschitz spent an ungodly amount of money making it beautiful, and the scenery is beautiful.
Yeah, it's out in the mountains. It's great.
So I
The
mean, a lot of
forest, it's beautiful.
yeah. So I mean, they all have their ups and downs. I'm looking forward to seeing Abu Dhabi and Qatar, which are supposed to be very nice, paddock clubs,
Mhm.
which we'll get to see this year. We haven't seen them. We're going back to Monza, and which should be fun. We're going to Spain because it's the last year, and we want to see it before they make it another lousy street race around an industrial park in Madrid.
In
I don't really
Madrid,
care.
yeah.
I don't. By the way, I love Spain. I like Madrid, but the idea of getting rid of a classic track for an industrial park, ugh.
Now, is F1 Experiences the only place you can get paddock
No.
passes, or can you go is there other sites that
Yeah.
offer them?
I mean, again, no. F1 Experiences, which is owned by Liberty Media, is a great place to start. And if you want to do the F1 Experiences Lounge, that's where you go. It's also a good place if you're a newbie to paddock life, and you want to get a hotel package and every the transportation of the track. They'll take care of you, but you're going to pay a mega markup. The hotel's going to be marked up. It's going to be a lot of money, more than you need to pay. But if you don't know what you're doing, they will take care of you. The downside of them is it's a bit of a factory. They got a ton of clients, and you may, depending on which representative you get, you may not get the personal service you want. Some of them are great. Some of them are bad. If you're assigned one in the UK, for example, and you're in the US, and that can happen, you may have trouble getting that person. So what we tend to do for F1 experiences type stuff is we use Canada sports marketing, a guy named Ryan McCallum in Montreal, who offers the same tickets, but he has a small company. A couple of people work there. He used to be the director of sales for the Montreal Grand Prix, but he returns calls immediately. He has access to the same tickets, and just the personal service is better. So we tend to go through Ryan for that. But if you want to get a team Paddock Club ticket, I usually go right to the teams, because by now, having been to so many, I have friends on most of the teams, so I can usually just go right to the team. But even if you don't
And
have,
for
you
the
can go.
audience, you just go right to the Ferrari website or the McLaren website or the
Yeah, McLaren you
Mercedes
can't
website.
anymore, which is sad, but you can for Red Bull, and you can for Ferrari, and which are good. You can for Williams too. Like steak, you have to go through like F1 experiences generally. Haas, the same thing. Alpine, I think you can go to Alpine, or you can go to F1 experiences. But Mercedes and McLaren, unfortunately, and Aston Martin too, are tough.
Now, for the so do you have to go early, or how quick do these sell out? Do they sell out just as
Great
fast
question.
as the tickets sell out, or
For Ferrari, you better go if you want a decent selection. You better go as soon as they are available. And the way you need to get on the list for Ferrari, go to the Ferrari F1 Club website and get on the list for next year. Because like what happens is they're first made available to Ferrari owners. I mean, first Ferrari sponsors, but that doesn't typically sell out everything. Then it's made available to Ferrari owners next through dealers. I'm not a Ferrari owner, so I don't get that. After that, they do a window for current clients of the Ferrari F1 Club, which is what I am. By then, just about everything but Monaco was still available by then. But by the time people like me are done, a lot of the races are not all of them, but a good number are not available anymore. Some are, a good number are, but some of them aren't. So then they're released to the public. And again, the more desirable races go quickly. The more expensive races like Vegas, for like almost 25,000 euros, a ticket is still available because it's so expensive, or it was. Maybe it's sold out now. But like Vegas, Circuit of the Americas, which is one of the most expensive tickets, was still available for a while. Baku generally, because it's not as desirable because it's so far to get to, tends to be one of the last to sell out. Hungary has been a slow seller because, again, it's not one of the more popular races to go to because it's a little further away in Westerners' minds. Although it's, but it's you're treated like a king, by the way, by Ferrari. If you go to Hungary, we were treated so well because we didn't have to contend with any big sponsors or any celebrities. We saw the garage during race operations, during the race several times, during practices, every practice, during quali. They treated us like gold. I would highly recommend the Ferrari F1 Club for Hungary because of that, because you don't have the kind of competition. Whereas in Austin, we went and we only saw the garage once during a race operation.
Because there's so many people. Yeah.
Right. But Ferrari took us to the, when they had a 1-2, the people who run the club, bless their hearts, that, took us down to the paddock, or took us to the podium to celebrate with the team when there was the 1-2. And let me talk about podium access. A Paddock Club ticket will not buy you podium access. You will not see the podium. The way you have to get podium access to be under the podium is to buy the Legends package, which again is about $3,000 more a race, or to have somebody on the team who wants you to go to the podium. Generally, otherwise you have to be a sponsor. You just so it's either a sponsor, someone on the team wants to share that experience with you, and we were so fortunate, or you have to buy a Legends package, or of course F1 Garage.
Now, anything before we end this? Anything that you may have missed out, or anything you want to go over before we end today's show?
I mean, the only thing I'd say is, what teams maybe offer the best Paddock Club experiences, because we've been to 5. I think it varies. They really are very, very different, Sherm. They're totally different. If you want EDM, if you want loud music, EDM, like really, energy, boom, 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 and you want to hear 4 different F1 drivers, there's only one place you can go.
Miami.
Red Bull. That's Red Bull. If you want to hear loud music the entire time you're there, EDM music, dance music, and you want to hear 4 drivers, only Red Bull will provide that to you. I had a sound sensitive guest, and I don't think she's still forgiven me for taking her to there in Montreal. I also found that their Paddock Club had the worst level of personal attention in F1.
Red Bull.
Yeah, it was 1 million people in their Paddock Club. It was enormous, and the level of staffing was terribly low. We got no attention. It was like, nice people at the front desk, but then it's fire and forget. They don't talk to you. They don't really pay any attention to you other than when it's your turn to see the garage. And the garage tour consisted of, literally running us through the garage, and that was it. We basically saw almost nothing. So I can't say that I thought that was a great experience. Although I did like seeing all 4 drivers. But it was my least favorite Paddock Club experience. The ones that I liked the most were probably Aston Martin, Ferrari, and Mercedes. Aston Martin has the most luxurious lounge, super friendly people, but there is a big dividing line between sponsors and non-sponsors. You will not see the garage during any race operations. You won't see a podium if that ever happens. There's definitely a large dividing line between sponsor guests and non-sponsor guests. The people are incredibly nice who work there. They will talk to you constantly during the race. They are lovely people, but don't expect to see the garage. It's not, during a race operation, if you're not a sponsor, it's not happening. Ferrari is Ferrari. It's all about the passion of racing. If you show passion for Scuderia Ferrari and for racing and for F1, it doesn't matter if you're not a sponsor. And I mean that. They will show you the garage. They may take you to the podium. They may give you a paddock pass. If you ignore them, don't pay them attention, probably not. But if you show passion for them and their team and you're sincere, and they can tell if you're bullshitting, they will treat you very well. And, you will see the garage during race operations. We sung the Italian national anthem with the team. It was an incredible experience.
Yeah.
I love Ferrari. Mercedes is exactly what you would expect from Mercedes. It is the most organized, systematized, best run in terms of organization Paddock Club in F1. It is a well-oiled machine. It is exactly what you'd expect from a Toto Wolff run operation. It is a machine. I mean, they've got hosts who explain to you everything that's going on at every different level. You get there, they've got multiple informational screens in the Paddock Club. Every race operation, they have at least 2 to 3 hosts narrating everything that's going on. You go to the garage, you sit down there in the garage in padded seats with headphones during race operations, during practices, and they have narration by expert hosts telling you what's going on. No one else is doing this. So they take you to the garage twice during race operations and show you every room and tell you everything that's going on. Excuse me, not during race operations, but during the race weekend. So in terms of systematized procedures, the way it's run, their level of staffing to guests is higher than anywhere else in the paddock. So for that, I say organization, Mercedes, passion, Ferrari. They're both great.
Well, I want to thank Scott for going over the paddock because he is. I'm going to actually start calling him Mr. Paddock. That's what I'll probably call him. I think that's a great nickname for him, like Mr. Paddock, because he's there so many times and all the race staff know him. And it's been a pleasure talking to you about the paddock and how it works. And if ordinary people can get into it, and you can, and I would say, as a person who just was watching the race in the stands, and then I went to my first paddock. Once you go to your first paddock experience, you kind of don't want to go back to the stands. I'm just telling you, you don't want to go. It totally ruins you. You're like, the food's so good. They have music. It's indoors. You can go outside, watch the race. You can come inside and watch it on the big screen. You get to in the variety of people that you meet there, and everyone's so nice. There's been like a family that we keep in touch with through they watch our show, and they make comments, and it just, I don't know, it's a great time. And if you've never been to a Formula One race and you want to treat yourself and your spouse or your kids to going to a Formula One race, I think the paddock is probably the best way to introduce them. But once you go there, you may never go back to the stands.
I want to be clear. We've also done grandstands. We've done grandstands at, Texas, and we've done grandstands in Austria, and, we've done grandstands in Miami. But once I took my wife to the Paddock Club, it was over.
You never want to go back.
I'll still see a race in the grandstands because I love racing and I love to drive race cars. So I'm okay with that, but forget it. It's not, I'd have to go myself. But it is definitely a great experience. But look, for people where it's a big lift, I would say a couple of things. Go to one of the European races, or go to Japan, go to Baku, go to Spa, go to one of those places where it's not quite as expensive. And also look around on some of the boards, and you may find somebody who's willing to sell a ticket at a discount because someone got sick or they can't go. And, I've gotten tickets to Vegas, for example, at the last minute that were as much as 70% off of face at the last minute.
Yeah. So you can be a consumer and you can go to some of the forums and see people, they'll be selling them. They'll be like, yeah, I can't go because of X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And I'm giving it away for, cheap or half cost, or just give me an offer. So, do that first. Go to Facebook, go around, go to Reddit and look at some of the sites first before you decide to get a paddock pass. But if you want to just go right past all that, go right to the F1 site, go right to F1 experiences and look through. They have different price points because they have 2-day passes, they have 3-day passes. They don't have 1-day passes. So if you're just looking for just race day, they don't have that anymore. And they've been getting rid of the 2-day passes on a lot of the races I've noticed. They want you to pay for 3 days. So on that note, thanks everybody for watching. If you have any questions or comments for Scott or I, put them down below. And Scott is very good at answering questions on the site, and so am I. So with that, keep on racing, everybody.